In this video, I'm identifying 10 of my favorite wines at $40 or less. I recognize that pricing may differ in some countries, but regardless of where you're located, these wines should offer excellent value at their price point. I'll include a wide variety of wines in this video, including reds, whites, and even a champagne. 7 different countries are represented. The first top wine at $40 a bottle is Chateau de Saint-Côme, Saint-Joseph. Saint-Joseph is in the northern Rhone region of France. If you're in the northern Rhone region and you're dealing with a red wine, then you're looking at Syrah. The vineyard from which this fruit is sourced is located at the north end of Saint-Joseph and it has a very cold microclimate with granite soils. The result is a wine that's a little bit more like a Côte Rôtie. You get excellent acidity, aromas, and a silky texture. This is one that can be enjoyed in its youth, but it will definitely age and gain complexity with age. For me, I find this to be an excellent cellar defender and one that keeps me from raiding some of my more pricey Northern Rhone Syrahs on a regular basis. Some retailers will sell this one for a bit more than $40, but I did find it for less than $40 at a major national retailer in the United States. For fans of Northern Rhone Syrah, I cannot recommend this one highly enough. The next top wine at $40 a bottle is the Caparzo Bernalillo di Montalcino, specifically the 2016 version. As a Brunello di Montalcino, this is 100% Sangiovese from the Montalcino region in Tuscany, Italy. This winery has about 28 hectares of vineyards. To make this wine, they blend fruit from 4 different vineyards with varying aspects in soils. This is a technique that helps to add complexity to the wine. I'm a huge fan of the 2016 vintage in Tuscany, pretty much across the board. I was in Montalcino back in February, and I attended a dinner where we tasted through a number of top Brunellos. At the end of the night, I compared notes with a Master of Wine student and a well-known wine personality on Instagram and asked him for his favorite wines of the night. He grouped about 3 of them as his favorites, and what they had in common was that they were all from the 2016 vintage. Similarly, I found the 2016s to be outstanding as well and very consistent across the board, pretty much throughout the entire Tuscany region. This is an excellent wine for about $40, and it's also one you can find on many wine lists, so I definitely recommend giving it a shot if you see it. The next top wine at $40 a bottle is the Roero Arnace from Bruno Giacosa. Arnace means little rascal. This wine is aptly named because the grapes are very, very difficult to grow. So difficult to grow, in fact, that in the 1960s, Arnace almost became extinct. But Bruno Giacosa and one other producer began commercial bottlings of this wine and helped to save it from extinction, and now there's closer to 2,000 hectares of this grape being produced. Roero is in northwest Italy in the Piedmont area, very close to Barolo. Bruno Giacosa is a legendary producer that makes many outstanding wines at very high price points. However, this one is extremely affordable and you can find it for $40 or less in many different locations. It's also featured on many restaurant wine lists, and that's how I first discovered it. I was in Piedmont and I was looking for a wine to pair with some early appetizer courses while I was waiting for my Barolo to decant. This wine pairs perfectly with many seafoods, starters, and also with pastas, so it's a great choice at the beginning of a meal. It's naturally low in acidity, but it's definitely a very well-balanced wine and one that pairs extremely well with food. Chez Pinot Noir is my next top wine for $40 a bottle. Chez Pinot Noir comes from Willamette Valley in Oregon, which is a well-known source for outstanding Pinot Noir from the United States. Willamette Valley Pinot Noir tends to be somewhat in the middle between Burgundy and California Pinot Noir. It's a little bit more fruity than some Burgundy, but it's a little bit more earthy than some California Pinot Noir. I'm a big fan of it, and I tend to visit the Willamette Valley every year or so to check in and visit with various producers. This is definitely one of my favorites. For about 10 years, Dick Shea started out as a grower. He sold fruit to some of the top wineries in Willamette Valley, so this would include producers such as Bergstrom, who makes an excellent expression of Chez Pinot Noir. After about 10 years of being exclusively a grower, however, Shea decided to bottle some of his own wine, and so now they have about 20% of their fruit, which they set aside to produce their own wine. This is an excellent option every year, but you can definitely find the 2016 vintage for about $40. It's well worth it at that price. In the past, some of the vintages in Willamette Valley were inconsistent and a bit hit or miss. However, in recent years, they've had some more consistent weather, and even when their vintages are a bit off, their producers now have much more experience dealing with those off vintages, and they know how to handle them better. So I wouldn't hesitate to buy this one year in and year out. My next top wine for $40 a bottle is the Mas Martinet Bru from Priorat, Spain. Priorat is generally extremely structured in a wine that needs a number of years of aging before it softens and becomes enjoyable. However, the fruit from this wine comes from a vineyard that has substantial cooling influence. Specifically, there's a southwest wind called the Garbonada that provides cooling sea breezes that help to offset the afternoon heat. The result is a slower, more extended ripening season that allows the fruit to become ripe, yet at the same time preserving freshness and acidity. Nevertheless, Priorat fans will be happy to know that it does have the telltale minerality and some structure that's common to most Priorat red wines. This is typically a red blend of 5 grapes. The 2018, for example, was a blend of 5 grapes. It was 28% Grenache, 26% Syrah, 23% Carignan, 16% Merlot, and 7% Cabernet Sauvignon. This producer embraces organic principles, even though they don't mention on the label. In fact, other than a little bit of sulfur that's added prior to bottling, this could be considered a natural wine. This is an impressive wine with character and one that I recommend highly. It's an excellent value for about $40 a bottle. While we're on the topic of Priorat, I'm excited that I'll be visiting in about 2 weeks, and so following that visit, I'll certainly be producing more content about that region. If you're getting value from these recommendations, please like this video so it's distributed to a broader audience, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next one. It really does help me a lot. The Kumeu River Estate Chardonnay is my next top wine for about $40 a bottle, and this wine comes from the Auckland, New Zealand area. I mentioned the Village Chardonnay in my $25 video, but this one is a step up in both quality and price. The fruit for this wine is sourced from 6 different areas, and they use a strict fruit selection to make this wine. The 2019 vintage was outstanding, and that's considered to be one of the best expressions of this Chardonnay that they've made to date, so that's definitely one worth seeking out. This is one that you can enjoy on release, but will age for about 10 years. This producer tends to make wine in a Burgundian style. It's one of my favorites to use to blind taste some of my friends. They oftentimes guess that it's a white Burgundy. This producer also makes some excellent single vineyard Chardonnay, but those are a little bit higher in price, maybe about $45 or $50 or so. But this wine is excellent in its own right, and it's one that I definitely recommend if you can track it down for about $40 a bottle. The next top wine at $40 a bottle is the Zuccardi Concreto Malbec. This wine is aptly named as it's fermented and aged in concrete for 8 months. Because they don't use any new oak, you get tremendous purity of fruit with this wine, which is 100% Malbec. The fruit for this wine comes from estate vineyards that Zuccardi owns in the Paraja Altamira area, which is known for its calcareous soils and has a reputation for producing quality wines. One of the special things about Paraja Altamira is the elevation. So the vineyards are at elevations of 1,000 to 1,200 meters. This high elevation results in a wide diurnal range. By that I mean that there's a big difference between the daytime temperatures and the nighttime temperatures. So in the day, there's plenty of sun and heat for the grapes to ripen, but at night, the temperature drops dramatically. This is beneficial for the grapes because it helps to extend the growing season and slow down the ripening process, and it helps to preserve the acidity and the freshness in the fruit. So this is definitely an excellent area to produce outstanding wines. Zuccardi is also one of my favorite producers in Argentina. I've visited there twice already, and it's a place that I highly recommend if you visit the area. Their facilities are top of the line and state of the art, and no expense is spared in producing their excellent wines. In terms of their winemaking approach, for many of the wines, not just this one, they've dialed back on their new oak percentage, and so you have excellent expressions of fruit. This is an extraordinary value at $40, but I even saw it as low as $35 recently, so it's certainly a wine that I highly recommend that you pick up at that price. K. Vintners Milbrandt Syrah is my next top wine at $40 a bottle. K. Vintners was founded by Charles Smith. Charles Smith was a former rock band manager in Denmark who toured Europe for about 10 years before he got into the wine business. But after he moved to Seattle, he ended up visiting Walla Walla, Washington, which is an area that's well known for producing Syrah. Shortly after that visit, he produced his first batch of Syrah in 1999 and went on to expand K. Vintners into a very prominent winery. Today, K. Vintners makes a number of excellent wines, especially Syrah, at numerous price points. There's some more inexpensive Syrah, this more mid-price Syrah, and then also some top expressions for more than $100 or so. 2018 was an excellent vintage for this wine. The fruit for this wine comes from the Wahluke AVA in Washington, and so if you can find this one, I would not hesitate to pick it up and give it a try for $40 a bottle. My next top wine for about $40 a bottle is the Jpruim Grocker Himmelreich Riesling Cabinet. This is an exceptional Riesling from Mosel, Germany. Jpruim has been a legendary producer for decades. Graucher wines are known for their racy acidity and their minerality. They're delicious when they're young, but they're capable of aging for many years. Like many wines, this wine is a little bit lighter and has lower alcohol, coming in at about 8.5% ABV. There is some residual sugar in this wine, but it has ample acidity to offset it. This is a wine that I really enjoy pairing with spicy foods, such as Indian, and it's also one of my go-tos on Taco Tuesday when I have spicy Mexican food. Of course, it's also terrific by itself, and it's definitely a no-brainer for about $40 a bottle. My next top wine at $40 a bottle is actually a champagne. It's the Piper Heidsieck Cuvée Brut. You simply can't go wrong with proper champagne for less than $40 a bottle, and I recently found this one for $37. Interestingly, this was Marilyn Monroe's favorite champagne, and she was rumored to have kept a month's supply of it on hand, and she had it every morning for breakfast. This champagne house has its roots in a love story. Back in 1777, Florenz Louis Heidsieck became obsessed with producing a wine that smiles to win the love of his muse. He was successful on both counts within 8 years, and in 1785, he founded the predecessor for Piper Heidsieck, and he also got married. This one is featured in Wine Spectator's Top 100 Wines of the Year. It's a blend of fruit from more than 100 different vineyards, which gives it excellent complexity. It also contains an impressive 25% of reserve wine. This is a very enjoyable champagne, and one that I oftentimes use as a cellar defender to prevent me from dipping into my vintage champagnes too early. So I highly recommend this one if you can pick it up for about $40 a bottle. If you're interested in finding wines for less than $40 a bottle, I recommend that you check out my video on top $25 wines, which is linked above.